This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
It's time for your Monday Night Raw review. It's Tuesday. It's October 3rd, 2023. We've got Monday Night Raw that took place last night. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it that accompanies every single Monday Night Raw. And there's a lot of good, actually. I mean, I know that I spend a lot of time, too much time sometimes, talking about the negative, but I hope that you stick around. I've got some good things to talk about on the Monday Night Raw review. But yeah, for those of you that enjoy the rants and the negativity, well, that'll, I'm sure, make its way into the show, as it always does. And invite you guys to check out last night's show I did with Anthony DeMarco. We did a current state of WWE. I went over some great topics, and we also used some new software. So I think the audio was improved even more than it normally is. So check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. I really want to make sure that the audio is as high quality as possible for the show. Makes a big difference. It's the only way I can communicate with you. We don't do a ton of video here, at least on the free side of things. So check that out. And I want to give a shout out to the latest patrons of the show, Efren Chavez, Efren and Noah, who recently upgraded his membership as well. So Efren and Noah, thank you so much, guys. Enjoy your ad-free everything, right? And if you want to join Efren and Noah, you can do that at patreon.com/WWE podcast and go ad-free there or go ad-free on the website or Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, the exclusive show for After Dark is only available on the SmackDown tier and above for those of you on Patreon. So, all right, let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about a show that I think, in some respects, shocked me in a good way. And I'm going to start out with a positive. All right, normally I start out with the negative, and we'll get to those. Tommaso Ciampa and Gunther. Where's this been? Particularly, where has Tommaso Ciampa been all my life? Or at least in my wrestling life. This guy who came up to the main roster a year and a half ago and could not find an identity. WWE seemingly didn't know what to do with him. Came in, he was like feuding with The Miz or something random, as all new talent seemed to do. And he was a heel, as a babyface, on and off Raw. No real direction at all. And to be fair, he also barely got a chance to speak. But now, in one night, he has made himself relevant. I don't want to say he's a star, but he's relevant. You know who he is now. And by the way, anyone else feel like he sounds like Shawn Michaels in his heyday? He's got that, not identical, but if you listen to him, don't watch him, just listen. And you might mistake him for Shawn Michaels, the way that he speaks. It's a bit of a doppelganger voice, in my estimation. But they had the contract signing. Tommaso Ciampa and Gunther had their contract signing. We had Tommaso Ciampa talk about how the 5-year-old boy in him wanted the Intercontinental Championship. He's not going to do it for his wife. He's not even going to do it for his daughter. He's going to do it for that 5-year-old boy. And Gunther talked about how he's disrespecting the championship because of how he's dressed, and came back pretty good against Ciampa. But I didn't think the match was going to happen that night. That was a nice surprise. They were going to do it, I believe, for Fastlane, and it got bumped to last night. And that's not something that you see happen that often, where two men who are not dressed to compete, or at least Gunther wasn't, have a match that night. Now, to be fair, we also had a Miz match that we'll get to, and he wasn't prepared either, so it seems like the same, bit of a similar creative style here, but I'm not complaining with Gunther and with Tommaso Ciampa in a match that got this is awesome chance, it's deserving of it. The way that it ended made total sense to me, with the double powerbomb by Gunther and then the choke out or the sleeper hold that ended up putting down Tommaso Ciampa. And Gunther was, quote unquote, as they always like to say, taken to the limit, which I think is an overused phrase. In this case, it applies. I just think it loses its value when everyone that takes a champion, even into deeper water with having to kick out and use more strength than they thought they would and dig deeper than they thought they would. I think it's an overused cliche to try to put over talent that, oh, they took them to the limit. Did they really? Right. However, Ciampa in this case worked very well with Gunther. I love Ciampa's style, and I think there are brighter days ahead for Ciampa, who might actually have something to hang his hat on when it comes to a story of sorts. Now, I know Gable was scrapped and he's moved into a different program with, I know Ludwig, Kaiser, and Vinci. I understand that. We'll talk about that a little bit later too in the tag team match. But it seems as if Ciampa has been put in Gable's place, and I have no issues with that. It is about building new stars, no doubt about it. This business sometimes forgets that and likes to lean a little too heavily over long periods of time on their current and legendary stars. And while they don't like to, use the younger stars in, the spotlight too much, because some people get turned off by that and look at it and go, oh, who's this guy? I'm not watching this. It's a necessary evil. It's a necessary process for any wrestling organization, or really, when you think about it, really any sports organization, to build on youth. It just is. It's not to say you ignore your stars, you use them, but it's a nonstop process. You never go, we're done for a long time here. No, you never stop. And this type of process will turn off the really casual fans, the ones that tune in for the big matches, only the big storylines. Oh, is it WrestleMania season? What's The Rock doing? Is Austin there? And they talk about the Attitude Era stars. Those people they probably aren't even watching Raw on a regular basis, but it digs a little deeper for the true fan to continue to watch all of the match and not skip ahead when you have young talent that probably most wrestling fans on the street wouldn't recognize. In Ciampa, in Johnny Gargano, who returned at the end of Raw. We'll talk about that next. And so my point of all this rambling is to just say that this is a process that it's fun to watch, because you could be on the ground floor of a potential, the next potential megastar, no pun intended, to LA Knight. It's fun to realize that you could have been watching that person come up, watching the development. And those are, I think, the more pure wrestling fans that like that process, whereas the casual tune in every now and then, or only when a big name's on, or what's the big story, what's the big this and that. There's lots of those fans, but anyway, it's a fun process to watch if you enjoy the development part, enjoy what they're doing to build new stars. And I don't think it's often talked about enough. All right. But Ciampa really wins in a loss here. This is a perfect example of winning in a loss and learning how to win in a loss, because people, they know you lost, but they know who you are now. They've seen what your motor can do, at least partially. They have finally seen you cut a decent promo, allowed you to cut a promo against Gunther, the greatest, really at this point, you could call him the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And certainly the longest running. So the real winner here, even in a loss, was Tommaso Ciampa. Sure, Gunther gets the victory. He continues to move on. And I would imagine that post-match, after Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser beat down on Tommaso Ciampa, that this program is probably not over. And maybe they do have a rematch at Fastlane. And this was more of a trial run to see how the fans react and if they want one. I think it was a success. I think if you're going to look at this and say, how did the fans react? Do we want to put a match on at Fastlane? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Now, I don't think, it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. We are out of time now, given that this is a week for the event of Fastlane, which, by the way, guys, I don't believe Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan are back yet. So I'll inquire, but Just continue to send your emails to me at mailbag@wwepodcast.com. And if you're a patron, put in the email that you're a patron. All right, I'll prioritize your email. Honor system, guys, honor system. So this to me was a huge win for Ciampa. Biggest night of his WWE career. That's not hyperbole. That is a unobjectionable fact. Name a bigger night for Ciampa, even on the losing side of things. So great match. Really enjoyed watching them work, and bigger things to come for both men. All right, well, let's talk about Johnny Gargano, who returned at the end of Monday Night Raw, and it wasn't exactly the most exciting return to end Raw, and it was a bit underwhelming, especially given what they did with Gargano before, where remember he was blackmailing The Miz and blackmailing him with Dexter Lumis, and he was playing like the narc, and he was supposed to be a babyface, but he came off like a little mole, like a rat that just, I don't know. He came across very unlikable, even though he wasn't supposed to be. His personality did not come through in a positive way in that program, in my estimation. And, hopefully that part of his personality is suppressed or erased, and he doesn't need to play, tattletale. So that's a good thing. But, we had him debut here, and you know what? Return after the Ciampa Gunther match. He came out and made the save for Ciampa, and it was all a DIY reunion. A DIY was I'm imagining a group that was in NXT. See, I don't watch NXT. But the DIY reunion was a throwback to NXT days, from what I'm gathering. So Gargano came out, and the mice scattered from Ludwig Kaiser and Vinci, and I would think that the next logical step is a tag team match with Gargano and Ciampa versus Ludwig Kaiser and Vinci. So that's my assumption. But yeah, mildly positive reaction to Gargano. Nothing overwhelming, but you can't expect anything more than what he got. So, all right, let's continue here. Let's talk about the match with Drew McIntyre and The Miz. Let's go there. Drew McIntyre over the last several weeks has been showing himself to be a little more, a little smarter, I got to say, even though that's not what they're trying to do. They're getting him to look a little smarter. He is not trying to involve himself in programs that he didn't start. That makes sense. And he is looking out for himself, and also saying, though, at the same time, that he still does care about what the fans' opinion is. So he hasn't fully turned on us yet. He still is the Drew that we know, but slowly devolving into the dark side. That's the evolution here. And I'm cool with that. There's not, as I mentioned last week on Raw, usually 9 times out of 10, a heel turn is a singular moment. It's a 180 turn out of nowhere, and those are effective turns. A lot of times, there's nothing like a good heel turn that no one sees coming in a singular moment. This is a much slower path to a Drew heel turn, and I have no issue with it. I think that it's a little awkward at times. The logic of it isn't exactly straightforward, but the match that he had with The Miz, and before we get there, McIntyre said he racks up wins and earns opportunities, and he told Miz that they should fight unless his balls are too tiny, and Miz asked the fans if they wanted the match, and Miz talked about how he's in a suit and Drew is in a skirt, and he accused McIntyre of pandering to the fans because deep down he feels bad for what he's done, and Miz says McIntyre is self-absorbed, and McIntyre suggested that Miz should shut up, and Miz busted out a kid's rhyme and then said that when he looks at McIntyre, he throws up, and McIntyre tossed the mic and is kilt aside. The skirt thing was funny. But McIntyre did mock Cody at the beginning of this, at the very beginning of his promo, where he was originally slated to appear on Miz TV and just came out on his own, which makes way more sense. He said, so San Jose, he's like, what should we talk about? And so that was a nice, maybe wink and a nod to what's coming of Cody versus Drew. Maybe that'll be his first heel program. And he said everyone wants to know why he's not the same guy. He said he doesn't owe anyone in the locker room an explanation. But he didn't turn on the fans. He just turned on the guys in the locker room. So that's kind of like a partial turn. So he didn't turn on us yet, so we're still okay, right? And he said he only answers to fans who have been with him through the ups and downs, the firings, and the titles. And he was going to stop being the savior. He said he's done with it. And he said that when he didn't save the day over the last few weeks, no one else stepped up. And that makes them hypocrites. He said Cody did, but that's only because he's cleaning up his own mess and it's ego driven. And that he feels like he's in the Codyverse. And Cody just says and does what he wants. And he added that forgiveness when it comes to Jay is weakness, not strength. That was nice. I love that. And that's where the Miz came out, and I just dictated to you what happened there. So McIntyre targeting Cody a little bit here in the promo, kind of side swiping Cody, not a direct hit, not a head-on collision yet. In this slow evolution of Drew is fun to watch because you never know when that moment's gonna happen, and it's just a different way to approach a heel turn, which is good. Now, the Miz versus Drew McIntyre was something to behold, not because it was a technical classic, it was a 4-minute match, but the match ended with McIntyre grabbing his sword. The ref took it from him as if, which, by the way, the sword is, I love Drew. I love you, buddy. But the sword is nothing more than a prop. We know for 1,000% certainty you'll never be able to use it, nor will you be allowed to use it. So don't insult our intelligence as if you're actually going to use it in a match. It will never, ever, ever happen. No one will ever see you swing the sword and hit someone. It will never happen. So that's the only gripe I have with the sword. It's a unique prop to bring to the ring. Not too many guys have brought swords to the ring. I understand that. But there's also no way for you to use it. That it's always just going to be for show. So that's the downside of the sword, even though it's cool to look at. Now, the rub here is that McIntyre used the exposed turnbuckle to get the victory over the Miz. And he hit a future shock DDT after he hit him. And after the match, McIntyre said he did some serious thinking, and he's not the same guy he was 30 seconds ago, and said he was sorry for his actions. And he said now that he's sorry, he was going to be forgiven, and yelled, yeah, and left the ring. So McIntyre is patronizing the forgiveness principle and just saying, I guess I'm sorry, so everything's good, right? And so, yeah, he is on a very slippery slope, but a slow, slippery slope to heel town. And I think we're all here for it. We then talked about Trick Williams beating Dom Mysterio to win the NXT North American title at NXT No Mercy. And Trick Williams came in and after the video package, and he was going to be interviewed by Jackie Redmond. And he introduced himself and said that he's 6'4", 230, whatever his stats were. He has gold in his ear, gold on his wrist, and now he has gold around his waist. And he's going to defend his title against Dom. And that's when Rhea, Dom, and JD interrupted and told Williams that Dom wouldn't be coming to NXT alone and would walk out as the new NXT North American champion, which is going to take place, of course, this Tuesday. Well, right now, as I speak, recording this. So, by the way, I fully expect Trick Williams to retain the NXT North American Championship. It doesn't seem logical for Dom to get it back. It doesn't right now. We then had Jackie Redmond stand close to ringside next to the stage, and she introduced Cody Rhodes for an interview and said that Cody, if he felt like he was going to be back, Redmond asked Cody if he felt like he was backed into the tag title match at Fastlane, and Cody said he never anticipated teaming with Jay, but he thinks Judgment Day backed themselves into the fight. And he said, Cody that is, said he heard Judgment Day intends to be at SmackDown on Friday, and Cody said that's great because he and Jay will also be there. And Cody said they would win the tag titles at Fastlane, and it will be, quote, a very different Raw once they return. Now, Red Dragon, who's a part of Monday Night Raw, was pulled back by security. But just because Cody declares he can be at SmackDown with no resistance whatsoever makes no sense. This is where, and this isn't me, slamming Cody, even though he's an insufferable babyface. It's just the principle of the draft rules and the lack of respect of them when there's no consistency at all. I mean, I don't need to beat a dead horse as I've done every single time that they do this. However, it is just glaringly obvious that you can just apparently declare you're going to be on SmackDown and everyone's cool with it. Yeah, you can just say, I'll be there. I'm a part of the other brand, but I'll be there. Well, why? I understand that the Judgment Day can be there if they're doing Freebird rules of Judgment Day being any two members of the Judgment Day could be the tag team champions. Then fine, the whole group can show up. But in this case, the opponents of the Judgment Day have no right to be there. They're not the unified tag team champions. They're not champions of any kind. It just makes no sense other than just it's convenient for SmackDown, as they really, I think, try to fill the void of Roman Reigns not being there week after 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 week. That's a sore spot for a lot of us, isn't it? We also got Tegan Nox versus Chelsea Green. Tegan Nox beat Chelsea Green in 2 minutes. Very throwaway match. And, these types of matches, which happen a lot on the women's side of things, brings back bad memories of pre-women's revolution time, right? We're old enough to remember that time when women's wrestling wasn't so prominent. It was still a joke and irrelevant and petty and all that. And these very, very, very short matches don't do the WWE any favors, or the perception of their view on importance when it comes to the women's division. It doesn't really help their case when they are consistently putting out these meaningless matches that last 2 minutes and there's no consequences whatsoever most of the time. So I don't know how you can have a good match in 2 minutes. This is not the fault of Tegan Nox or Chelsea Green, who I think need more in-ring time, need more promo time. Now, having Tegan Nox beat Chelsea Green with the shiniest wizard, fine. I mean, what's the ramifications of this? The answer is nothing, from what I understand. All right, well, let's see. We got Nakamura and Seth Rollins. Okay. This has been, if I was to vote for the most overachieving storyline of 2023, this would be at the top of my list. When Shinsuke initially turned heel, I was down on it. I said, let's give it a chance, but it's probably going to be very little promo time. Seth Rollins is just going to mow him down. He'll be competitive, but eventually Seth is just going to win. This hit us like an RKO out of nowhere, with the brilliance of the video packages and the subtitles and Shinsuke himself. It really makes you wish he did speak English, because the content of his promos is very good. And he's got great facial expressions and body language. God, is he good at that. He's mastered that, for all the fault that we can give him for not, learning English at a more fluent level where he can communicate with us. The fact is that he has survived because he's really good in the ring. He has name value. And also he knows how to communicate without being, knowing the native tongue that well. That said, this was very good. Again, very good. This is such a joy every week to watch. I don't know when it's going to end. It probably will end at this pay-per-view, PLE. I could go one more round if they needed to. But so Michael Cole, though, stood in the ring and he introduced Rollins, and Rollins did his usual over-the-top routine and the whole singing to the song, which I'm beyond over. And, Cole was genuinely concerned about Rollins and said that, there's the dangers of the last man standing match. And Rollins asked Cole how long he's been at the broadcast table. Cole said 26 years. And Rollins asked Cole how many shows he's missed. And Cole indicated he's missed 2 shows. And Rollins said Cole gets it. He's addicted to it. And Rollins said it's a compulsion and Cole loves it. Rollins said that that's what it is for him. And he loves the fans singing his song. And can we please stop singing the song? However, I understand Rollins' analogy, but the difference is that Cole isn't risking, permanent injury or paralysis or death by sitting in his chair because he's addicted to it. Rollins is. See, that's the difference, right? Like they both love what they do, no doubt about it. They're both committed to what they do. But the difference is Cole, again, has very little to no risk of being paralyzed because he's not an in-ring competitor. See, that's the point that Cole was trying to get across. It's not how long we've been doing this and how much we love it. It's you're putting yourself in danger while Cole is not. See, but they didn't bring that up. And I understand what the hero's doing there. I can appreciate it, but it was a glaring omission from my stance. So that said, we continue here. Rollins said that the ring has given him everything. It's put a roof over his head, food on the table, and it's how he met his wife, his beautiful girl, and said that when you're a world heavyweight champion, all of that responsibility gets amplified. He said that if Fastlane is his last ride because his back gives out and he can't do it anymore, it doesn't matter. He said what matters to him is that he leaves it all in the ring, and said that he would have fulfilled his responsibility and would be an honorable man and an example for his daughter. And Rollins said Cole wanted a reason, and that's the best he had. Rollins said it's not words, it's just a feeling, and it feels right. That's when Shinsuke came on and the subtitles were shown, and he said he was tired of listening to Rollins' nonsense and wondered if Rollins' back injury was just a lie to get sympathy. And Nakamura then showed up and attacked Rollins from behind. He hit Rollins with a Kinshasa, and then on the screen, Nakamura counted to 7. Rollins pulled himself back up. Rollins was beat down with a steel chair many times, and Nakamura took a seat. And then on the screen, Nakamura continued to count, and Rollins almost got up, and Nakamura kicked him, and then slammed his back onto a chair, a side slam through a chair. And Nakamura followed up with a Kinshasa, and then took the mic and counted to 10. And Nakamura picked up the title and held it over his head, and that was brilliant. I mean, it continues to position brilliantly Nakamura as a heel, and exposing the back once again of Rollins, targeting the back of Rollins again. And that is, the idea that Rollins' back is hanging on by a thread is a nice visual for us. We all know what something hanging on by a thread looks like. Therefore, it's easy to visualize what Rollins' back could be looking like right now, and I love this. The constant attacks from behind are awesome. Rollins has yet to get one up on Shinsuke. It's all about Shinsuke drawing heat. It's a very old school way to build a match where it gets you to pay for the event that they want you to pay for to see the babyface overcome and beat the hell out of the heel. It's a strategy as old as time. It's as, it really is just a tried and true strategy that never fails, because human beings generally don't change when it comes to wanting to see the bad guy get their ass kicked. It's just human nature, and this has been very, very nicely built. Now, does it tip the hand of who's going to win on Saturday? Yes, I think very heavily, because Rollins has been getting destroyed by Nakamura on a weekly basis, and it's time for Rollins to get some revenge. So I think we all can probably say that the heavy, heavy favorite here is still Rollins, with an outside chance of Nakamura. I mean, I will say, if they make Nakamura a champion, I wouldn't hate it. It wouldn't be the craziest thing they've ever done. You know, they didn't Jinder Mahal this thing and make him champion out of nowhere. I would have no issue with it, but I don't think they're going to do that. So, this is just so much fun. So much fun bringing the personnel element into it and just making this about Rollins' back and how it's hanging on, and Nakamura talking about dishonoring his family and his daughters not being able to look at him. It's just all good stuff. Great. Where has this Nakamura been? Nakamura. Becky Lynch backstage had her arm in a sling. They showed a picture of a gash on her arm. That was, yikes. Was it like 14 stitches, 11 stitches, something like that, to close that wound that she suffered with Tiffany Stratton and their no DQ match that they had at No Mercy. Brutal. But Lynch said that she wanted to defend her title against Knox, but the doctor didn't clear her. And Lynch assumed that Knox would want to face the best version of her and told her that she better go get ready once she's cleared. And Lynch turned to leave, and Natalya was standing there, and Natalya let Lynch pass and then approached Knox. Natalya said they got off on the wrong foot, and she said she's actually proud of Knox and said she knew she would nail it when she gets her shot against Lynch. And that's it. All right. But there's some stuff we didn't talk about yet. Now, Xavier Woods versus Ivar. Xavier Woods beats Ivar in 9 minutes with an inside cradle. It's just like everything about this character is just the worst. Now, in ring, as I've said, Xavier Woods, and I take nothing away from him, is very good in the ring. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves because his character is so outlandish, and that's been the focus. And why fans cheer him is generally because he's so likable and he's just so bombastic, and he's, a cartoon. He's essentially a walking cartoon. And it sometimes overshadows his in-ring work. And to be fair, he doesn't often get a lot of matches either, until lately. And in this case, Xavier Woods beats Ivar in 9 minutes. And then after the match, Ivar attacked Woods, and Kingston tried to help, but Ivar ended up slamming Kingston onto Woods, and Ivar went up to the top and performed a moonsault on both Kingston and Woods. So, yeah, hey, I don't have any issue with this. I'm not sure what this seems like a holding pattern for both teams. This can't be their ultimate destination of what the purpose of this program is. They have to, I would imagine, eventually insert themselves into the tag title picture, or I'm not sure. But right now they kind of need each other because neither team has anything else going on at the moment. I know there was some beef with Drew McIntyre that seems to have passed for the time being between Kofi and Xavier and Big D, as they probably would call him, because we're 15 years old, and that's funny. All right. Let's talk about, we already talked the Intercontinental title match. So Bronson Reed versus Cedric Alexander. Very quick match here. Bronson Reed beat Cedric, as you'd imagine. He hit the senton and the tsunami splash. Bronson Reed, I don't know when they're going to strike with this guy. It seemed like he was ready many months ago, but maybe they saw things they didn't like and wanted to clean up, and eventually they'll get there when they want to. Seems more logical. But Bronson Reed, over the last several weeks, has been racking up some wins, and I think it might be time to give him something more significant to do other than beating talent that haven't had anything going on in years, like Cedric Alexander, and in like 2 minutes. So Bronson Reed is just on the squash path, which is one that's very common when they're trying to establish giants. Or bigger men, I shouldn't say. He's not really a giant, but all right. So Alpha Academy and Chad Gable and Otis, took on Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci in the opening match of Monday Night Raw, and this was a nice finish here because Kaiser and Vinci winning against Alpha Academy, it was a significant victory for Kaiser and Vinci because, boy, do they need victories. I know I just made a case about how, you can win in the loss, and that's what Tommaso Ciampa did. Sure, that's great, but there are times when you just need to flat out win. You need to rack up victories. You need some kind of momentum. It can't all just be about the win and a loss. Sure, that can be applied and can be applied for a period of time, but eventually you have to just start winning damn matches. And that was very much needed by Kaiser and Vinci to get some kind of victory. And they beat Alpha Academy about 10 minutes and 40 seconds. And Kaiser pinned Otis for the victory. And, again, decent tag team matchup. What you'd expect. Opening match, crowd's going to be as hot, as hot as they're going to be usually at the beginning of the show with the most energy. And I had no issues with this. I thought it was a nice matchup that I'm sure that they could kind of plug and play anytime they want. And for now, Chad Gable has kind of been relegated back to that role. And he was taken from the confrontation with Gunther, which, don't forget, actually happened. They were going to go for part 4. When he interrupted the Intercontinental Title celebration of Imperium when they were all dressed in suits, and they just scrapped it and went with Ciampa, so. All right. Now let's talk about the opening of Raw, because the opening of Raw saw Nia Jax, okay, and Shayna Baszler brawling on stage. Referees try to keep them apart, and Raquel Rodriguez came out to the ring and fought Jax, and then Rodriguez threw a big boot that avoided Jax and hit Baszler by accident, and then Jax knocked it down and distracted Rodriguez. And that's when Rhea Ripley came out and attacked Jax. And Rodriguez went after Ripley. A group of security guards pulled them apart, and Ripley broke free and hit Riptide on one of the security guards, and then stood tall, and the crowd was chanting, "Let them fight." And Ripley then took the mic and declared that Mommy's back on Raw. Probably the line of the night. Rhea Ripley had a really good night. There is no apparent leader in the Judgment Day, but boy, you can make a case for Rhea, could you not? It feels like she's been gone for 6 weeks, and she was only gone for 2 weeks, selling the injury from Nia Jax. So that's why she took down Nia. I'd imagine Jade Cargill is probably going to get herself involved here in short order, as Nia Jax is steamrolling through the women's division, dominating. That domination stops probably when she meets face-to-face with Jade Cargill, which could happen as soon as Fastlane, but probably more like Crown Jewel or Survivor Series. Depending on how close she is to ready, the storyline she has to get set up for, all that, of course, all the logistics that bring in a successful debut. So we got Ripley in the ring, and she brought out Dom and Priest, and Ripley said she left her responsibility with Priest, and he disappointed her, and she said, quote, "I go and you can't handle the job," and said Balor was out after the brawl last week, and Priest can't compete because he's not medically cleared, and she blamed Priest for Dom losing the NXT North American Championship, quote, "because you weren't there like I told you." And she said they have a Jey Uso Cody Rhodes problem. And she said they don't fear Judgment Day because, quote, "we're not a threat to them." She said they would try to take the tag titles away from Priest, and she asked him what he was going to do about it. And Priest said Ripley wasn't saying anything he didn't already know. And he said that Cody and Jey were coming for the titles. And when push comes to shove, he'll push harder. And Priest said, "Screw Cody, screw Jey, and screw all the talk about the Judgment Day falling apart." And Priest said his title and his Money in the Bank contract, or he has his title and Money in the Bank contract, but then says, "Mommy, where's Dom's title?" And she shifted her attention to Dom and said that he would have a rematch with Trick Williams on NXT, and that if he doesn't regain the title, then he shouldn't bother coming home. We'll see if she follows through on that, because he's not going to come home with the belt. Which means, can she follow through on her word? What happens with Dom and Rhea? Me personally, I'm not ready to see Dom and Rhea break up. Whatever kind of couple or alliance this is, or sick mother-son quasi-incest relationship, whatever this is that they have, I like it. It sounds weird to say given how I just described the relationship, but they do have chemistry. There's no denying it. So I hope that Rhea doesn't decide to just haul off and knock Dom out and all that kind of stuff. They've got something good going. They've got chemistry that's very difficult to manufacture, and you don't come across every day. So I hope this isn't anything that is going to be bigger than it needs to be. But Jey Uso came out and he welcomed back Rhea Ripley and said, quote, "We all missed you," and said it looked like there was a new tribal chief on Monday night, and it looks like she has bigger balls than Roman ever did. And he got in Dom's face, and Dom removed his jacket, and Rhea and Priest went to ringside, and Jey ducked a punch from Dom and super kicked him, and then J.D. McDonough, the mole, attacked Jey from behind. And Cody Rhodes came out because we always have to make sure that he's the savior. And he helped Jey take care of Dom and McDonough and hit crossroads on Dom. Priest stood in the apron and glared at Cody. And then Adam Pearce came out and announced that Priest and Balor would face Cody and Jey for the undisputed tag team titles at Fastlane. So then, of course, they after that, they talked about the signing of Jade Cargill. The broadcast team did. So that said, Cody and Jey versus Priest and Balor for the tag titles at Fastlane feels like it's not about the tag titles. It feels like it's how do Cody and Jey coexist? Does someone turn on the other? It feels like where is Dom going to fit in this? Does Rhea interfere? What is this really about? Where is Kevin Owens? Where is Sami Zayn? Are they going to interfere and cost Balor and Priest their match, and Cody and Jey win the tag titles? Very possible. All these situations. This is not an easy match to predict because it's not really about the titles themselves. It's about kind of the ancillary third parties that are possibly going to interfere in this match. And there's going to be branches of stories coming from this. So this is it feels weird because you have Cody and Jey teaming up. And then it's also for the tag titles, and there's a strong case for Cody and Jey to win. How do they coexist as tag team champions after all they've been through at the Bloodline? It's a fun little story to think about, and it could also give other heel tag teams a chance to move up and work with Cody and Jey. And also, it would allow Cody and Jey to be on SmackDown anytime they want legally, if we're playing by the rules, and they should be. That would mean Cody and Jey can go to SmackDown. You know what that means? Bloodline, right? If they want to get involved, or those of you that are looking for a Cody and Roman matchup, part 2, that's a way you could get to it, possibly. All right. So that, I think, wraps up the majority of what happened on Monday Night Raw. Again, some of the positives. Rhea Ripley's return. Boy, does she get a babyface pop. Oof. If WWE wanted to turn her, they could. I really enjoyed Rhea Ripley's fire. Again, it felt like she'd been gone for months. The fact that they called it a return is also funny. I mean, to me, a return has to be like a minimum of a month, maybe more. And I really enjoyed. By far, the match of the night was Gunther in his Intercontinental Championship match against Tommaso Ciampa. It was expertly executed and achieved everything you wanted it to achieve for Ciampa. Johnny Gargano returning to make the save for the beatdown. The post-match beatdown was fun, unexpected, but we'll see how the fans take to the DIY reunion. And, the women's division continues to be a little bit unfocused. Nia Jax, I know, is the brick wall. She's the one taking everyone down. She's the one that can't be stopped. And then enter Jade Cargill. That's happening. It's just a matter of when. All right, that'll do it for me tonight, guys. Appreciate all of your support. You want to go ad-free? Want to get rid of all the ads you heard throughout the show? Patreon.com/WWE podcast. $1 gets you in the door. $5 or more, the SmackDown tier and higher, gets you ad-free content with all of our shows, plus an exclusive After Dark show that Anthony DeMarco drops every single week. And then you also get ad video, or video-free ad clips, I should say. I'll get it right. That I put out at least once a week, only for those in the SmackDown tier and above. So, hey, quite a bit you get over there at Patreon or WWEpodcast.com. I know some of you still do the website thing, and that's cool. So, lots of ways to do it. And if you just want to support the show, but maybe it's not in your budget to help us out right now, you can give us a 5-star rating. That stuff's free, and certainly helps out the show. All right, that's enough pandering for me. I will talk to you guys tomorrow for the mailbag. Take care, and I'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.